take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. It's time!
It's Sunday, April 10th, 2022. This is the Church of MMA podcast. My name is Mason Knight. Over in the corner there, Devin Davis, co-host today, running the ones and twos. Devin, you want to go to your camera, say hi today? No Tabor. Powerful stuff there. Guys, we are here to recap UFC 273, and what a night of fights this was. Absolutely incredible card from top to bottom. I mean, Devin, overall, what would you grade this card from an A grade to an F grade? What would you give it?
I think we can give this card A minus and A. I mean, pretty absolutely stacked, great fights, wasn't bored at any point. Yeah, what would you give it?
Yeah, dude, it's got to be an A for me. I mean, the main event was one thing. I kind of saw that coming, but there were some upsets on this card, and we just got to jump right into it. Let's start at the bottom here and work our way up this time, since we're just going to be doing the UFC 273 recap today. Tabor is not in the studio, and before that, there's one thing else that I would very, very much like to do on this show as soon as I can figure this out. Here it is, and that is for myself, the new undisputed Church Coin champion right here. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Does it feel good?
It feels great, but you know what feels even better, Devin, is being able to wear the belt this time. You said that it was a lot easier to put this strap on me, so that feels good.
You've been losing weight, man.
Yeah, I'm killing it, guys, killing it. But yeah, man, what a card. Let's start with Vink Pichel versus Mark Madsen. This was a 3-round war. Mark Madsen and Pichel, 37 and 39 years of age. Mark Madsen, 3-time Olympian, silver medalist in Greco-Roman. This was a really good fight to start out the card. Kind of got me hyped for it. Pichel looked good. I had him winning one round, but dude, overall, I mean, Mark Madsen, man, 12-0. At some point with his age and stuff, I think we got to start giving him a top 15 real soon. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree. He looked good. No disrespect to Pichel or anything like that. I mean, I was rooting for Pichel myself. Nothing out of the ordinary here, but he just looked good all around. I felt that he won all 3 rounds. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Pichel looked good. But again, Mark Madsen, he's a savage, bro. I mean, it's no joke. That wrestling's top-notch. I'd like to see him eventually get a top 15 guy. I mean, 12-0 now as a professional mixed martial artist, an Olympic athlete. Like, at some point, we got to give him a top 15. Yeah, but the problem is dude, the lightweight division is just so fucking stacked that it's so hard to crack that top 15,
Yeah, I don't know what's next for the guy, but they got to give him top 15 for sure.
Well, in pulling up the rankings here, I mean, a good fit would be like maybe a Diego Ferreira sitting at 15. You could do Dan Hooker, too, who's on a bit of a skid. I think that'd be a real good matchup for Hooker. I'd like to see that. Brad Riddell as well. There are definitely a few names on this list, but I mean, at 12-0 and at his age, he's eventually got to get top competition here. We're just going to kind of graze through this because I cannot wait to talk. We're going to be talking extensively about the last 3 fights on this card. So let's move on to Mackenzie Dern. This is the women's strawweight division. Mackenzie Dern versus Tecia Torres. First and foremost, Mackenzie Dern has improved drastically since that Marina Rodriguez loss. She was getting outstriked in that fight. But, man, her striking was on par against Torres, who is known for her striking, too. And both these women looked jacked, dude. They looked in phenomenal shape. I was really impressed with the evolution of Mackenzie Dern. She's got a lot of time still to develop in the strawweight division. In the pre-fight pre-fight conference, she was talking. She was asked, so if you do beat Torres next, I mean, what's next for you? Or do you want to be in title contention? She goes, I'm coming off a loss. She goes, I want to take some time, develop my skills before I get a crack at the belt. And I do respect that because, you know, the 2 losses she has had is top competition. But Torres, you know, Torres was, had she had beaten Mackenzie Dern, would probably be in a number 1 contender spot. But she just fell short. I mean, so this was a split decision, Devin. Did you agree with that? I mean, who did you have winning that fight? Because I had Dern, and you and I were joking around on the Fight Companion, and then when it actually did happen, and it was a split, I about shit my pants because I put 7,000 church coin on Mackenzie Dern, and I thought she did enough to win, honestly.
I'm not shocked that it went to split because every time we joke about it, it actually comes true. But I had Dern winning all 3 rounds, but that's just me.
Yeah.
I don't know what you thought.
I mean, I thought Dern looked great, man, on the feet. She was putting together really good combinations. I mean, Torres was landing shots too, but Mackenzie was doing it at will. And that was one thing that completely surprised me because that Marina Rodriguez fight, the one gripe I had about that is Mackenzie Dern, got to take her down, utilize that jiu-jitsu. I mean, no one has better jiu-jitsu than fucking Mackenzie Dern in the strawweight division. I mean, there are a few, maybe 1 or 2 other, but she is top notch. But man, the heart of Torres too, because that Kimura was nasty. That standing Kimura that Mackenzie Dern had, I really thought she was going to pull that off. But Torres is a
really?
tough girl, man.
I didn't think she was high enough or around to get the sub with that. I thought she had to stand up, but I mean, she was tiring out Torres by just having her hold up all their weight. I know she tried to get to the side and get up a little higher, but I didn't see her getting that submission. I just knew that it was an attack that was effectively working to tire out her opponent, but I don't know what you thought.
Yeah, I talked about that on Fight Companion too. I thought she could have been higher on that Kimura, but it's really hard to do when you're strapped around your opponent. But even when they fell to the mats and everything, there were some really awkward transitions where I thought Mackenzie Dern could pull it off. But, you know, shout out to Torres, and that defense was on par, man. But, you know, as far as Mackenzie Dern, like, I feel bad for Torres because she wasn't kind of a number one contender position had she had beaten, you know, Mackenzie Dern, but it is what it is there. What do we do with Mackenzie Dern? She's number 5 in the world, just coming off number 7, beating Torres. I know Mackenzie Dern wants a couple more fights before she gets crack at the belt, but I think at this point, you got to give her a number 1 contender. And the name that pops into my mind right away is Yan Zenon. You know, obviously she lost to Marina Rodriguez. Marina's number 3, so you're not going to do an immediate rematch on that. I think that would be a little soon. But Rodriguez also beat Yan Zenon just a couple months ago. When was that? March 5th. Or no, that was last month. So, I mean, you could do that because Mackenzie Dern lost to Rodriguez and, you know, Yan just lost to Rodriguez. I like that fight, man. Stylistically, that's fun. Yan can fucking crack. But Mackenzie Dern, dude, with the evolution of her striking and how much better she has gotten, I think that would make for a great matchup and a potential, you know, number 1 contender. I mean, maybe not necessarily number 1 contender because we're also dealing with Marina Rodriguez here. You got Carla Esparza taking on Rose Namajunas. Is that 274 or 275?
I believe that's 274.
274, yeah. And then we just got an announcement. Let's just talk about it right now because we're talking about the strawweight division. Zhang Weili versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk 2. Did you watch the post-fight conference with Dana White when he was asked about this? So they asked him, they go, yeah, we just saw that UFC 275 was just announced with the rematch of Weili Zhang and Joanna. They go, is this going to be 3 rounds or is it going to be 5? And Dana kind of does that little smirk and he goes, well, what do you want it to be? And he goes, can you please make that 5? He goes, we'll make it happen. We'll make that 5 rounds. And I love it, man. I absolutely love it. We have to have that fight 5 rounds. That's one of the greatest fight, regardless of gender, regardless of division. That is one of the greatest fights in UFC history. That is one fight that I have watched almost 10 times now, and it never gets old.
I think that's got to go into the Hall of Fame.
Oh,
100%.
110%. I totally agree. I mean, again, one of the greatest fights of all time. And man, we've got another fight on this card that we will talk about later that will definitely be a future Hall of Fame fight because absolutely wild there. But Zhang Weili versus Joanna too. Now, Joanna's been on quite a break. I mean, how do you see that fight? It's really hard to say, can that fight get better than the first one? Are we hyping ourselves too much for that? Because, man, that's going to be really hard to duplicate just how good that fight was.
I think one of them will be looking for the finish this time. It would be great if because we were spoiled. We're spoiled right now.
Oh,
if
yeah.
we got the 5-round war again and then we got a finish, but I don't think. I think probably Whaley's gonna look for the finish. Joanna might want the war, but like you said, it's been 2 years since she's fought.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a very long break. I don't know. She's just been off too long. So we'll see if she's got any ring rust or she's just back in there being a badass.
But it is the perfect fight to make in the strawweight division. So let's talk about this. So we kind of talked about Mackenzie Dern and what's next for her. I think Jan Zenon, I think that fight makes complete and utter sense. I mean, what do you think? Do you like that matchup?
Yeah, I think that fight makes sense. I mean, Jan just lost against Marino, right?
Yep.
That was,
last month,
3 weeks ago?
Yep.
Yeah, so I think you already have Whaley and Joanna. You already got Carla and Rose. So then, yeah, you can do Jan, Mackenzie Dern for sure. And then I don't know if we're talking about Torres' future, but there's some good fights in this division, I think, for her.
Yeah, there are. And, her stock doesn't drop too much. I mean, it was a good fight. It was a split decision, razor thin close on the judges' scorecards. I mean, you could do a Michelle Watterson or a Nina Ansaroff, I mean, Nina's sitting at 6 and Michelle's sitting at 8. I believe Amanda Rebos has just got a fight announced. So you probably are not going to be doing that unless, obviously, you take on the winner or whatever. But
and then Lemos is fighting too soon.
Andrade, yeah.
Andrade, yeah.
April 23rd. So that fight's already booked, ready to go. But, yeah, there's a lot of options here for both fighters. And also, dude, just every fight on this main card was just so much fun to watch. That Mackenzie Dern-Torres fight was great. A lot of transitions, a lot of submission attempts, some really impressive striking on the side of Dern. So very much looking forward to both of their futures. All right, dude, let's jump into this. We have to talk about it. Easily, fight of the night. Guys, this is a future Hall of Fame fight. Unquestionably, undeniably. I woke up this morning and rewatched it because typically when we do the fight companions, we can't have the TV on for copyright and all that shit as far as the sound. But, man, I watched it this morning. That crowd was electric. It was so loud. It was deafening loud in Jacksonville, Florida. And, this fight really lived up to the hype. All the questions coming in was, will Khamzat Chimaev be as dominant as he has consistently been in the first 4 fights of this UFC career, with only getting struck one time in those 4 fights? And we got that answer, man. And, it was a close fight. They had Chimaev winning it 29-28. But, when you get into that top 5, it's a whole different ball game. I mean, we now know that Khamzat Chimaev has got the heart to go 3 hard rounds against someone experienced and someone as incredible as Gilbert Burns, with all of his world champions in jiu-jitsu tournaments and whatnot. But, man, the sky's the limit for Khamzat at this point. Yes, we did see some minor holes, if you want to call them that, in his game. But he won that first round. He won that third round. Gilbert looked really good in the second, even dropped Khamzat. Khamzat's got a lot of heart, man. I mean, so much heart. It's absolutely incredible. And Gilbert Burns' stock doesn't drop much for me here. I mean, this was fight of the night, unquestionably. Did you hear what Dana White said in the post-fight conference, too? He said he was going through it when people were asking him questions, and he goes, you know what? I'm going to give Gilbert Burns his win money for that, which I love seeing that, dude. I love seeing that fighters who go out there, put everything out on the line, are willing to die in the cage. And that's what Gilbert said coming into this fight. He goes, I was ready to die in there. And it showed, too, because Gilbert was so exhausted in that third round, and so was Chimaev. But they just kept throwing, man. It was incredible.
I would agree. I don't think any of their stocks drops at all. I mean, Gilbert was calling for this fight for months and finally made it happen. No one else wanted to fight Khamzat. I mean, let's be honest. And, yeah, I saw a lot of controversy back and forth online saying that Burns won the fight. So, not surprised, went to a split. Did you think it was going to be a draw or anything like that with how close it was? I mean, I thought it was pretty thin.
No.
Gilbert showed that Khamzat is human, as Dana said. I think he exposed that Khamzat can be dragged into, the water, tired out in the later rounds. So I'd love to see Khamzat in a 5-round fight, I think then we can truly see. I mean, he's already obviously proved himself, and he's that motherfucker. But I'd love to see Khamzat in a 5-round war with somebody just to see how far he can really go. I guess we'll be seeing that with him and Colby since that's what Dana seems to want. But
they want to do that on ABC too.
Wow, really?
Yeah. That's what they're slated for. They're really going to try to make that fight happen on ABC. I'm going to read some chats real quick. Kevin says, just the cardio needs to improve. He says, I respect both fighters after that. Absolutely. It's hard not to as an MMA fan. And that's the thing. Gilbert Burns' stock doesn't drop. He's the only motherfucker who wanted to take that fight. He's the only guy who put it out there all on the line, being number 2, taking on number 11. Gilbert Burns is still right in the mix, man. And something that Gilbert Burns said that has really stuck with me, and something that I have a tremendous amount of respect for Gilbert Burns for, is he said he wants to take the route of a guy like Charles Oliveira, where, Charles was in this lightweight division taking on the best of the best every time. And yeah, it took him a while, to rise in the rankings, to really fight for a belt. But man, when Charles put it all together, he is unquestionably, undeniably the lightweight champion now with a defense. And I think we will see that with Gilbert Burns. He's constantly improving. He's fighting stylistically completely different fighters every single time. I mean, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, primarily a striker, took that fight on, beat Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and now you're dealing with a guy like Khamzat Chimaev, where you don't know. I mean, Khamzat's powerful striker, can KO anyone, KO and Gerald Mershard at middleweight, but then the wrestling of Khamzat as well. I just have so much respect for a guy like Gilbert Burns. Torrin Brown says, what's up, fellas? Benji, there's a bit of a quit I saw in Khamzat. That is something I never saw in Khabib, a fighter Chimaev was constantly compared to coming in dominance-wise. And then AJ Wolf says, Khamzat has championship potential, but not championship ready. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of go back and forth. I kind of go back and forth on that, guys, because again, Khamzat Chimaev is a human being, right? I just think that we saw how dominant he was in his first 4 fights, and I think people were shocked to even see the guy get punched. To even see him get hit was kind of a step back, and you're like, oh my gosh. But you cannot deny the wolf mentality, the heart that Khamzat Chimaev has. Look, he was put through so much adversity, and he overcame all of it. He was caught. He was dropped. Gilbert Burns dropped him in that second round, late into that second round. And, Khamzat could have given up. And Khamzat came out in that third round. I do slightly kind of disagree with some of you guys because, bro, Khamzat Chimaev was gassed too in that third round, but the output was just more. And Gilbert was trying to finish him too, but Gilbert was, he was getting tired, so he was throwing that big looping overhand right a lot of times in that third round. He landed it a few times, but I don't know, man. I think the heart is there for Khamzat Chimaev. I mean, what do you think? Do you think he was exposed at all?
Just that he's human and can be hit, obviously. His technique fell in his precision. I felt like his accuracy fell in later rounds because he was tired. But I think he's just going to work on that even more. And I think he's got the championship mentality. We'll see how he does against Covington. But I think he's on the right track, obviously. And, it'll be fun I do want to see him. He's already proved himself, but I do want to see him in a 5-round fight, and I want it to go to 5 rounds just to see how his cardio holds up in those championship rounds.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing that's still unclear. But if it's anything near the output he had against Gilbert, I think that's the only obstacle he's got to overcome is the cardio. But other than that, I think this kid's ready to fight for the belt, maybe after one more fight.
Well, and here's the thing, too. The output from both these fighters, guys, you got to keep in mind, there is a pacing difference between when going into a fight that it's going to be 5 rounds or 3 rounds. These guys were training for 3 extremely hard rounds. And if you look at the stats, you look at the output of these 3 rounds. I mean, yeah, they did get tired, but this is a 3-round fight. This isn't the 5-round fight that Gilbert Burns is used to. These guys were putting it all out on the line for those 3 rounds. Let's talk about this, Devin, on the side of both fighters. Let's first go with the loser of this fight, Gilbert Burns, number 2. There are a lot of options for him still. I just said his stock does not drop much for me.
I don't think there are a lot of options for him because if we look at the way the fights are going on right now, okay, Kamaru's fighting Leon next, that's for sure.
And then Vicente Luque, Bilal Muhammad is next week. But see, that's the fight. So the winner of that fight, look, man, I know some people would disagree, and that's okay. But again, this was one of the greatest fights, or the greatest fight this year. I think I can definitively say that. This fight was wild, absolutely insane. I mean, you could give Gilbert Burns the winner of Bilal Muhammad, Vicente Luque. I mean, I'd like to see that either way.
I'd like to see that, but I just don't know if they're going to wait that long, because the way I see it, what I was looking at it, is you have Colby, Leon, you have Gilbert, who just fought Khamzat, and Vicente and Bilal are fighting. Gilbert just beat Thompson last year, so they're not going to do that.
Yep.
So the only, I feel like, realistic thing is he either waits for the winner or loser of Vicente Luque Muhammad, or he fights Masvidal. I mean, or Sean Brady, Neil Magny, and Michael Chiesa. I mean, that's kind of how I see it, because pretty much the top five are busy.
Yeah.
So,
but I will be honest with you, on the side of Jorge Masvidal, for his stock and for his superstar status, he's got to get a win.
Yeah, I don't see him taking the Burns fight, but I mean, that's probably the first opponent that Burns can fight in the near future, or quickest, I should say, since everyone else is, wrapped up or busy.
Right. Yeah, I like, as far as Gilbert Burns, like, I like the winner or loser of Vicente Luque, Bilal Muhammad. I mean, either way, that matchup's great. Stylistically, Vicente Luque being the savage striker he is against Gilbert Burns, I mean, I really believe someone's going to sleep in that fight. I mean, that's wild.
I think I'd like to see him against Luque more than Muhammad.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you feel.
No, I actually agree. I love Bilal Muhammad, and he has absolutely surprised me and has looked so good over the last 2 years. But I do think, and I could be wrong, and I do remember the name, but I think Vicente Luque is probably going to etch that fight out, and then you could do Luque and Burns. I would absolutely love that. Let's talk this, though. We got to talk about Khamzat Chimaev now. And this is really interesting, and a lot of people go back and forth right now in the chats as far as who they are taking in the Colby Covington versus Khamzat Chimaev. I think we all know that fight's going to get made. On the side of Colby Covington, okay, he has lost twice now to the pound-for-pound greatest fighter in the UFC, Kamaru Usman. He did just have a very impressive win over Jorge Masvidal, absolutely dominated him, but he does know that he's got to take at least one or two more fights before you get that third matchup with Kamaru Usman. And what better guy than Khamzat Chimaev to take that fight? Essentially, if he does win that, completely stop the hype train of a guy who just beat number 2 in the world, Gilbert Burns. I think this is the perfect matchup for Colby. This is exactly what he needs to get in that title contention. And if Colby Covington went out there and defeats Khamzat Chimaev after he just beat number 2 in the world, so now, Khamzat should essentially take that spot, number 2. If Colby Covington can get the job done against Khamzat, I mean, he's got an argument to get another shot at the belt. And like, I'm at that point now where Colby Covington stylistically has been Kamaru's really only tough matchup. Like, it's the only guy who's gone the distance in a long time with Kamaru Usman. I mean, I know Usman did finish him in the 5th round in that first fight, but that second fight was really competitive. It was 48-47. Colby won a few of those rounds, couple of those rounds, I should say. I do think Kamaru Usman definitely won that fight, but it was close.
It was definitely close. I just don't know what's next for Colby. If he stops Khamzat, and then fights Kamaru again? But if he loses, then does he go down in weight, or does he go up in weight? I mean, I feel like he has to go to the lightweight division if he can't beat Kamaru, because that's 3 for 3.
So yeah, exactly. So I think we're kind of in the same situation as the Max Holloway, Alexander Volkanovski, where if you get that third shot and you lose for the third time, you really got to reevaluate what weight division you're going to be in, or weight class you're going to be in, or what you're fighting for, essentially, because getting a 4th matchup when you're 0-3 is impossible. I mean, you would have to go on a 5-fight win streak and literally just decimate everyone else in that division. So I think it all kind of comes down to everything's on the line. It's all on the table. I mean, for Max Holloway, with the Alexander Volkanovski situation, if you were to go out there and lose again for a 3rd time, Max got to move up to lightweight. Like, it's just because he'll never get that opportunity again unless someone else can beat Alexander Volkanovski. I think it's the same way with Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington at this point. If Colby can go out there, beat Khamzat Chimaev, look, as an MMA fan, love or hate Colby, it is what it is. He's got his shtick. I think he's entertaining. I think he's funny. I think some of the things he does is a little over the top, kind of like triple cringe. But, you know, I mean, who else? I mean, if Colby beats Khamzat Chimaev and he beat Jorge Masvidal and beats Chimaev, I mean, you got to give him another shot. But all the cards are on the table, and he's got to win that fight because if he doesn't, he's not going to get another opportunity.
I would agree, but a fight I really want to see is Colby Burns. Kind of disappointed that we didn't get that.
Yeah, you know, that's a fight I would like to see eventually. But it's just I just don't see realistically them scheduling Gilbert Burns coming off a loss to Chimaev taking on the number one guy, Colby Covington. I think that's just.
You think there's an argument to be made that they can push the Khamzat championship fight without fighting Colby?
Without fighting Colby?
Beat the number 2 guy.
Yeah, he did beat number 2. Yeah, but I think you got to get through Colby. I do. I just think, you know, here's the thing. Khamzat looked great over the course of 3 rounds, but we haven't seen him in a 5-round fight yet. And I think that's why setting up Colby Covington, Khamzat Chimaev for 5 rounds main event on ABC makes the most sense. What guy better than a guy who's got 5-round cardio like Colby Covington to take on Khamzat Chimaev, who has not been tested in those championship rounds? I'm not saying Khamzat can't go 5 rounds. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we have not seen it yet. And to give him a huge spot like Kamaru Usman over the course of 5 rounds, which inevitably that fight would probably go 5 rounds. They're both tough as nails. I think it's kind of a hard sell. I want to see Khamzat Chimaev be taking into those murky waters, those deep waters, that 4th and 5th championship rounds that we know Colby Covington can push. You know, this was a 3-round fight. This was a dog fight, man. This was a war. These guys were relentless. There was no time for them to rest. I mean, it was just action, action, action. But I got to see if Khamzat can do 5 rounds before we just give him an immediate shot. And, you know, why not take that Colby Covington fight? You know, Colby talks a lot of shit. Khamzat doesn't like Colby. They don't like each other. You know, he calls him cum shot Chimaev. Like there's already an established
this is
beef.
Disney. Calm down.
Sorry. There's already an established beef there with those two fighters, man. So I really want to see it. I want to see Khamzat Chimaev, Colby Covington. Winner of that gets the next shot after Leon Edwards.
I think that a lot of people going into this, think that Khamzat is just going to absolutely smash Colby. But like you said, I think it's going to the championship rounds. And I might etch it to Colby in these championship rounds because we just haven't seen Khamzat in these round 4 and 5, and we've seen Colby, and like you said, the motherfucker's got that third lung, he's got that cardio, and I feel like the odds should be a little more even and not as disrespectful as they were to Burns. What do you think? Oh,
well, to hit that point first, the odds makers were completely disrespectful to Gilbert Burns. I could not believe that Gilbert was coming in, closed the books at a plus 380 underdog against Khamzat Chimaev. That's just absolutely wild. That's wild to me. I mean, Gilbert Burns is top echelon. On the side of Colby Covington, Khamzat Chimaev, let's talk about that. Let's talk about who we think could potentially win that fight. I got to be honest with you, Devin. I completely agree with you. I think Colby Covington has got 5 hard rounds. This guy's cardio is beyond anything I've really ever seen, especially at this weight class, you know, at welterweight.
I would make an argument that his cardio might be, as of right now, from what we know, might be better than Khamzat's. And if that's the only thing he's got over him, it's a big deal.
It's a huge deal. And the wrestling of Colby Covington, I mean, he's just absolutely relentless, and he will work. Oh, my God, stylistically, I love the matchup. I love Khamzat Chimaev, and it's right now, after what I saw, I've seen a lot from Colby, and I've seen him go 5 rounds. I've seen how tough he is as well. Tabor's not going to like this at all. But I would etch it to Colby. I would etch it to Colby Covington in that fight, man. I mean, as of right now, let us know in the chats what you guys think. Colby Covington versus Khamzat Chimaev. Who do you think wins in a 5-round main event?
I think it goes to a split decision. 5 rounds, 5 hard rounds. I think it goes to decision for sure.
Yeah, and I don't see either guy getting finished.
No, I really don't.
No, I don't see Khamzat dominating on top for 5 rounds. The guy like Colby's going to get back up. He's going to do everything he can. And then I don't see Colby Covington dominating Khamzat Chimaev on the ground for 5 rounds either. I think it'll be a war, man. I think, we'll see a couple rounds of them standing and banging, and then we'll see a few rounds of them like with the grappling transitions and scrambles. But, man, I absolutely love that fight.
I think we got to go to the comments here. AJ Wolf says that Luque and Burns are in the same training camp and won't fight each other. I forgot about that. And Torren Brown says, why not Burns against Jorge Masvidal? Yeah, we kind of went over that.
Yeah, and
The
I like
odds,
that.
he said the odds for Ferguson and Michael Chandler are disrespectful as well. I got to pull those up. I didn't see those yet. Wonder what.
I could imagine Michael Chandler's a heavy favorite in that. I haven't seen the odds, but yeah, Benji says, "Come what, Chimaev? Ha 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 ha." Torren Brown says, "I'm so ready for UFC 274." Yeah, 274 is going to be awesome card, man. A couple title fights on that as well. Torren Brown says Colby Covington would have a field day with Khamzat. Yeah, it'd be an interesting matchup. I don't see either guy like waxing, or beating the shit out of either one. I think that'd be a very close fight, but one I most certainly want to see. Devin, as far as ranking for fights thus far, do you think this is the best fight that we've seen in 2022?
It might be. I think so. It's obviously a very fair argument. I mean, we saw some really good fights this year, so I'll have to go back and watch them. But this is obviously was the people's fights, what they wanted. I definitely feel like it's what everyone wanted. They got what they deserved, or not deserved, but
what we paid for.
What we paid for. So definitely worth it. They showed heart. I might be best fight of the year so far.
Yeah.
But we got a lot coming up in this year, so who knows what we're gonna see, man.
Yeah, I just think thus far that was my favorite fight, man. And there was so much hype too, like on the fight companion. My eyes were just glued. Typically, we'll have conversations. I couldn't even have conversations. I was just watching the fight. I absolutely loved it. Torren Brown coming in saying Colby versus Khamzat is way too big of a fight to main event a fight night. That fight is pay-per-view bound. I'm actually going to disagree with that, only for the simple fact that it would then be on ABC network. You're going to get a whole lot of casuals tuning into that on ABC for free, and you main event a big fight, number one contender fight like that could do huge numbers on ABC. And I think it would be really good for the sport. Dana is talking about this being the biggest sport in 5 years, where they're going to get all these mainstream TV networks like CBS, ESPN, ABC, they're all going to be airing these fights. And I'd have to agree with them, man. The sport is only growing. They're breaking records left and right. Every pay-per-view is a sellout. Every fight night is a sellout. They're breaking, gates. It's just absolutely incredible. Garbees says Khamzat, the wolf. Yes, he is a wolf. That is for sure.
Looking at the odds now for the Ferguson-Chandler fight, I'm seeing like plus 155 Ferguson, minus 180 Chandler. I mean, those aren't terrible.
Yeah, those aren't terrible odds, but I love Tony Ferguson, and
he's just had fight after fight of top tier echelon fighters. So it's no disrespect towards him or anything. He's just fighting the best of the best. So I mean, it's gonna happen. Yeah, and
that's just that's rough. Torren Brown says, you got NBA players who follow the UFC. Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, people from around the world. I mean, you have huge actors, celebrities who love the UFC. Obviously, like The Rock was tweeting all night. Dwayne The Rock Johnson, he was enjoying the hell out of it. So Torren Brown says, everyone keeps saying Tony is washed. I don't agree with that. I don't agree. I don't think Tony Ferguson is washed. Absolutely not. And I would never disrespect Tony El Kukui like that. However, Michael Chandler has got explosive power. And if he lands one of those shots where he just overhand right or one of those big left hands, man, I don't know. God, it's rough. I hate saying that Tony's going to lose a fight because I love Tony Ferguson. But, man, I just don't see where he wins. We have seen Tony Ferguson in the last couple fights. Charles Oliveira. Tony was exposed on his back, and he could not get up. And Michael Chandler takes him down. He implements that wrestling that he's just so good at. I think this is a really, really hard fight for Ferguson to win. And my problem right now is how I'm looking at it is I don't see where Tony is going to win. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
I see Tony winning with a submission. Like you said, Chandler's got explosive power. Outside, we've seen him in the first round just dominate. I think if Ferguson can get out of the first round, he's got a real chance of getting it to the ground and submitting Chandler, as we saw attempts from Oliveira. But I think they're probably just going to stand and bang, to be honest. Is it 3 rounds or 5?
This is a 3-round fight.
Yeah, I see him standing and banging for all 3 rounds. So I don't really want to see that. I'd rather see some mixed up, some groundwork and whatnot, because I don't want to see Tony just get fucking rocked again, like we saw him against Gaethje. But look, we all know it's going to be fight of the night. We all know it's going to be maybe even fight of the year. So fans will be pleased, definitely.
Yeah, Benji says, I think Tony has one great fight in him. Yeah, let's hope. And Torrin Brown, he disagrees with me here. He says, I disagree, bro. Justin had power, too, against Ferguson, and he threw everything at him, including the kitchen sink. Chandler won't KO Tony. I do agree with that. And obviously, Tony Ferguson has got a tremendous chin, and I do not disagree. However, he has been in so many wars that if Chandler connects with that overhand and he lands flush on the chin, I do think that he has the capability of KOing Tony Ferguson. But again, never count Tony's chin out, dude. And Tony Ferguson has been, I think it's been about a year since Tony's fought, and I'm glad. He needed to take that time away, needed to reassess, reevaluate. Because, I mean, keep in mind, guys, like, let's not forget who Tony Ferguson is. This was that motherfucker in the lightweight division who won like 10 fights in a row. Like, he was on a run. You know, he was the interim champ and then got stripped for no reason. So there was a lot of factors at play, and Tony is still that guy. He's still a top guy in this lightweight division. And I'm not saying that Tony cannot win that fight. I think he can. I just, realistically, right now, I just don't see where he would win.
You think he needs a fix-him-up fight more than this Chandler fight?
Yeah, I would have very much liked to see him take on like 7 or 8 in the lightweight division. I wish he would not have.
I agree, but hey, he's not the type of guy to shy away from a fight.
No,
so it is what it is.
He's not. And I got all respect for Tony Ferguson because he doesn't want a tune-up fight. He doesn't want a lower-ranked guy. Like, he wants to fight the best of the best, win or lose, regardless. He still thinks he's the baddest man in the lightweight division. You got to respect that confidence. And that's why I love Tony Ferguson. But realistically, a fight I would have liked to see over Michael Chandler and Ferguson. I still think it's a great fight. I'm excited for it. But I would have really liked to see Tony Ferguson, Gregor Gillespie. I think that fight would have been a lot of fun too, man. But it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Moving on to the co-main.
Yeah, let's talk about the co-main event of the evening. Guys, Aljamain Sterling did it. And you know what, motherfuckers? I told you guys that Aljamain Sterling would go out there and retain his bantamweight belt. And boy, oh boy, does it feel good to be right.
I never heard you say that once, man.
Well, that's okay because we have it all recorded. We can go back to the tape. I will put a compilation over the last 2 weeks of me talking about how Aljamain Sterling is going to win. Now, look, could he have handled that whole situation a year ago after that first Jan fight a little bit better? Well, of course he could have. But again, what did he do? He got eyeballs on that fight. He got eyeballs. He got the social media hype. Whether you love a guy or hate a guy, you will tune in to watch them fight. And Aljamain Sterling went out there. Devin, you and I this morning went and rewatched round 1. Because, guys, that's where it is. 2 and 3, Aljamain Sterling won. Yes, I get it. He didn't do any damage, blah, 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 blah. However, he had Petr Yan in a compromised position. He had 7 or 8 minutes of control time. He had the body triangle, the body lock, and was working submission attempts. Never was successful with them. And then 4 and 5, we know this historically, Petr Yan, you do not want to go championship rounds with Petr Yan because you know he will win those fourth and fifth rounds. So it all comes down to round 1. Petr Yan had a lot of control. Aljamain Sterling was landing more strikes. And the way I judge that, stylistically, you can look at Israel Adesanya or an Anderson Silva, counter strikers, right? So they don't typically pressure their opponents, but what they do is they outstrike and they outland, the guys that they're fighting. I think this is the same situation. I went back and rewatched round 1. I had Aljamain Sterling winning that round. Is it a close round? Yeah, it's close. But Petr Yan was not doing enough, guys. He was not throwing enough volume. He was stalking Aljamain Sterling down, but did not win that round. I think the right decision was made, and this is one of the very rare scenarios where I actually disagree with Dana. Dana said he gave round 1 to Petr Yan. He said the judges blew it. I don't think they did. I think Aljamain Sterling won rounds 1, 2, and 3. Petr Yan winning 4 and 5. Let us know in the chats what you guys thought. Devin, how'd you see that shaking out? Who did you have winning that fight?
I thought it was going to be a split. Like you just said, we both rewatched the first round. Like you said, Aljamain had more output in the strikes, but Petr was definitely controlling the octagon more, and he had more, I felt, more powerful and significant strikes. So it's just, however you're going to judge it, I felt it was going to go either way, and it was going to be close. So I wouldn't be mad if they had Jan winning that, or if they had Aljamain winning that, because clearly Aljamain won rounds 2 and 3 with the body triangle and controlling it on the ground, and kind of got gassed after maintaining that in round 4 and 5 that I definitely scored for Jan. So as Dana said, it's all in the first round. However you see that, if you think Jan controlling the octagon and throwing heavier strikes, stumbling Sterling more, then now you're going to give it to Jan. But if you think just, I wouldn't really say he was counter-striking, but just throwing more output, getting Jan touched up a little bit more, if that's how you score it, then that's how you score it. So I think it could go either way, and fans are going to be upset or disappointed with either decision. But I see where Dana's coming from, because Sterling didn't come out super with the super heavy strikes, but he did have more output. I think we can pull up the stats right now.
Yeah, and he was in that first round too. He was landing a lot of kicks. He was landing a lot of combinations. I mean, it wasn't a ton. It wasn't a ton. That first round is tough to score, but I ultimately think the right decision was made, and people got to start putting respect on Aljamain Sterling, the Funk Master, because you know what? He went out there when everyone counted him out. They said he should have been finished in the 4th round in that first before that illegal knee. Oh my God. Will Smith is commenting in the chats. Holy shit, Will, G.I. Jane 2, come smack me, bro. He says, Aljo, the first guy to win and defend a bout without dealing any damage. Shout out to Will Smith. Thanks for commenting, man. First celebrity in our chats. Pretty cool.
So looking at round 1, stats say that Aljamain had 19 significant strikes. I don't know if I guess. I didn't see 19. And Jan had 13.
Yeah.
Out of the percentage of the strikes, the total strikes, Aljamain landed 49% and Jan 32%. So yeah, man, it's pretty fucking close. So
yeah, it was pretty close. But I rewatched it. I thought Aljo won the first round, and rightfully so. I just it's weird to say this because I'm just some guy. I'm just some whatever. But
I
am proud of Aljamain Sterling and everything that he had to overcome. The hate online, everyone trolling him, no one giving him the respect. And he silenced everyone. Yes, it was a very close fight in the 4th and 5th round. He was gassing a little bit. He was real tired. But dude, to be able to overcome all of that and to go out there and put on a performance like that and to get the win and to retain your belt to a guy that a lot of people said you lost to, that you didn't deserve the belt, that's a huge deal, man. And
I would have liked to see him get the submission if he was winning, winning around 2 and 3. I think he was trying to go for the choke and he just couldn't get it. Really, which he kind of
testament to Jan.
Yeah,
and that
Jan's defense was just incredible for over 7 minutes.
Yeah, over 7 minutes of control time in rounds 2 and 3 is absolutely incredible.
I think that would have for sure shut down any hate because he got the finish. But even then, people are gonna talk shit. It is what it is. Just because like the way he handled the last fight. But this one, I mean, I guess you can still talk some shit, but it was definitely a better fight. So,
but hey, you know what? At the end of the day, Aljamain Sterling's got the strap. 2 judges gave it to him. So you know what? At this point, anyone who's still trolling him, I see it. Torren Brown, he says people are still not giving Sterling his props after that win last night. They're still trolling the guy. But here's the thing: he went 5 rounds. There was no DQ. There was no controversy. Aljamain Sterling won it. So you know what he can do? He can give the big middle finger to everyone who's trolling him. And it don't matter at this point. It don't matter because he won the fight. He won the championship fight. He went out there, did exactly what he needed to do. It was a close fight either way. But now you ain't got to worry about the trolls. Now, if anything, you were like, yeah, come on, give me. Go ahead.
So what's next for Aljamain? What do you think?
You gotta do TJ Dillashaw, man. I mean, you gotta do you gotta do Cheetah Thaw.
I gotta say, man, I think I'm taking Dillashaw on that fight, if I'm being honest. No disrespect to Aljamain, but
oh man,
TJ's that motherfucker. It's gonna be close.
I know,
but I think I gotta etch it out to Dillashaw. What do you think,
bro? It's so tough. It's so tough for me in that fight because I think TJ Dillashaw, obviously, having the 2 or 3 year suspension. I think it was 2 years, might have been 3. But he was a champ. Like, he is that guy, man. I think TJ might be the best bantamweight in the world right now. So, yeah, I'd probably etch it to TJ. And that's coming from a huge Aljamain Sterling fan. I love Aljamain, but TJ is just so good. I want to talk on the side of Petr Yan, though, real quick. What do we do? I mean, what do we do with Petr Yan? Because at this point, you know, TJ Dillashaw, number 2, probably going to take on Aljamain Sterling. He just beat Jose Aldo, like, what, a year and a half, 2 years ago. Just beat Corey Sandhagen. You got Rob Font fighting Marlon Vera in a couple weeks, 2 weeks from now, or 3 weeks. I think that's April 30th card. It's a fight night. Like, what do we do for Petr Yan? Like, I don't know, because he's beaten number 3 and number 4. And then maybe if Rob Font gets past Vera, maybe you do Rob Font, Petr Yan. But, like, the guy's already beaten everyone. Or give me Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling's best friend and training partner, Merab Dvalishvili. Are you fucking kidding me or what? That's the matchup to make. And Merab deserves it. Merab deserves it. I mean, this guy is a marauder. Like, he does not stop. He is an Energizer bunny. Can you imagine that main eventing for a 5-round fight? That guy doesn't gas. And honestly, it's the one guy in this division who I think could win either round 4 or round 5 against Petr Yan. The cardio's insane.
So do we see... So if we go Dillashaw, Sterling, Petr Yan, Merab Dvalishvili, Rob Font and Vera fighting, not sure what's happening with Dominic Cruz, and then we go Sandhagen, Aldo?
Sandhagen, Aldo.
Is that what
Absolutely,
we do?
yeah. Give me a Sandhagen, Aldo. Both guys deserve it. Jose Aldo's on a run now. Corey Sandhagen had a very close loss to Petr Yan. I mean, 48-47, really close, you know. Corey Sandhagen looked good in those first 2 rounds, and then Petr Yan, you know, 3, 4, and 5 just turned it on him. But I love it. I absolutely love that fight. Yeah, give me Jose Aldo, Corey Sandhagen. You could do that for a number 1 contender. Or, you know, Petr Yan, Merab. And if he's able to get past Merab, you give Petr Yan the next shot, man. Because Merab's no joke. Merab is a savage. And it kind of sucks. Merab's in this position where it's like, okay, he does fight Petr Yan, who was just a champ, or the interim champ, I should say, whatever technically. And then he beats Petr Yan, but he's not going to fight his best friend for the belt. So Merab's in a tough spot, man. I feel bad for him.
So what do we do with Cruz? Does he fight Sandhagen, or does he fight Song Yadong or Pedro Munoz, or what do we do with the Cruz?
Oh, man. With Cruz, I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
he's ranked number 7 right now. So.
No, he is. And of course, like Dominic Cruz, former champion, like legit. I love him, but I don't know what you do with Cruz in this situation. I mean, maybe if you don't have,
I'll tell you what you could do.
What's that?
You could do Ricky Simone, Frankie Edgar.
Ricky Simone, Frankie Edgar, or Ricky Simone, Dominic Cruz?
Either. He's sitting at number 12 right now, baby. So Frankie Edgar's 11. We do Ricky 12, 11, or we do Cruz Simone.
No, here's the thing. Here's the thing with Cruz. This is the fight that has needed to happen for like 2 years, and the one that I've wanted to see. Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Dominic Cruz. That's the fight I want to see, stylistically. That's a ton of fun. It's a great matchup. But again, and I'm not dogging on Sugar Sean. I get what he's doing, and I respect the hell out of it. Now he's in the top 15. He has taken his time to develop his skills. He's a very young fighter. Still getting his wits about him. Has looked good. But Sugar Sean O'Malley at number 13, taking on Dominic Cruz, is the fight I want to see. I want to see Sugar Sean in that next echelon, that real close, Dominic Cruz, former bantamweight champion. That's the matchup for me that makes the most sense for Cruz. And I think it's a fight that Cruz needs to just get past and get into that top 5. I mean, I know that sounds counterintuitive because Sugar Sean's 13, but Sugar, outside of that Marlon Vera fight, is undefeated. So I mean, Sugar would say
he's always undefeated. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it don't matter. It's that fighter mentality, I suppose.
Moving on to the main event, not a whole lot to talk about here except Volkanovski's that motherfucker, and like he said, the rest of the division needs to get their shit together and beat number 1 to be number 1 and go for the fight. I mean, not much to say here other than he just completely outclassed, outstruck, outlanded Zombie with seemed like just seamlessly no effort, just perfect, flawless victory on Volkanovski's side. I agree with Dana that the fight could have been stopped in the 3rd round, but Yeah, not much to say about the great Alexander except just keep doing what he's doing, I guess. I mean,
well, I got some things to say about Alexander Volkanovski. We're talking pound for pound. Guys, the Korean Zombie, number four in the world. I mean, this was the guy outside of a Max Holloway who had to pull out of that fight. And he, in no disrespect to Korean Zombie, one of my favorite fights. Guy's been fighting forever. It's been in war after war. I absolutely love the Korean Zombie, but I got to be honest here. The masterclass of Alexander Volkanovski, the Korean Zombie looked like he shouldn't have even been in there with Volk. And no disrespect, I love the Korean Zombie.
No disrespect.
Man.
I 100% agree. But look, that second fight with Max was super close, so you could argue for another Max fight, but he completely beat the shit out of Ortega, the Korean Zombie. I mean, what's next for Volk? I mean, another Max fight. Okay, they make that. What if he wins that? So then does he fight Yair or does he fight Cater? I mean, what? This guy's just crushing everyone, man.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, as far as pound for pound,
you got to put some respect. We got to put more respect on Volkanovski's name.
Oh,
like he doesn't get enough respect.
Oh God, if you don't have respect for Volkanovski right now, then what fucking sport are you watching? Are you insane? Anyone who has anything bad to say about it, I mean, guys, the guy is now 24-1. He's on a 21 fight win streak. I mean, he's one of the most dominant fighters in mixed martial arts history. I mean, look at the resume alone is absolutely impressive. Taking on top echelon. Max Holloway was that motherfucker. He was the best featherweight in the history of the UFC, and he went out there and beat him twice. Yeah, second fight is close. Whatever. I don't care. That's the only fight to make, man.
Well, you don't want to disrespect Conor like that, saying, he's the best featherweight in UFC history.
Connor's not even in talks for the best featherweight. What did he do? He beat Jose Aldo, which is impressive, but didn't even defend his belt. So get the fuck out of here with that shit. No, he's not. Okay, just because you win the belt don't mean you're the greatest. You know who is the greatest? Fucking Alexander Volkanovski, man. And now we're talking about this, the pound for pound rankings. It is so close for me. And I'm the biggest Kamaru Usman dick rider on planet Earth. Like, hey, look, pound for pound. Like,
would you put Alexander over Israel on pound for pound, man? This is
absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean,
yes.
Fuck.
And I love Israel Adesanya. But Alexander Volkanovski, what he's been able to do with the competition that he's taken on, it's bar none. I mean, dude, to be able to do what he just did to the Korean Zombie, number 4 in the world.
Made him look like a complete amateur.
That it's baffling to me just how good Alexander Volkanovski is. He's lightning fast. He's got so much power, and he's just good everywhere. It doesn't matter. And you see the heart when he took on Brian Ortega. I know we talk about it all the time. 99.99% of the human population taps to that. Taps to either one of those chokes. And
I thought he had it.
So did I. I thought it was over.
I was like, oh, this is over.
I thought it was a wrap in the fourth round.
Got out. That fucking little kangaroo, man.
It's phenomenal, man. And if we're talking, pound for pound, it's real hard for me. It's Kamaru Usman, Alexander Volkanovski, and then third you got Israel Adesanya. But I just
you might be able to make an argument for Volkanovski being number 1 pound for pound just by the dominance of every fight he's had. I mean, Kamaru's looked dominant in all fights, but it was a close fight with Colby, Yeah. But Volkanovski always, besides the second Max fight, he's just dominated completely. Right. So you might have that argument there. Yeah.
So for me, the only fight to make in this featherweight division, it's got to be a Max Holloway. It's the same situation with Colby. If Colby beats Khamzat, you give Colby the third shot. You got to give Max Holloway the third shot because he's the second best guy in the featherweight division, and it's so apparent. It's so obvious. I mean, look at Max Holloway. I mean, the guys that he fights after Alexander Volkanovski, I mean, it completely dismantles a guy like Calvin Kattar, who's a phenomenal striker, Yair Rodriguez, who is no joke, and he goes out there and beats Yair. I mean, there's no one else in this featherweight division who I think can compete the same way that Max Holloway can against Alexander Volkanovski.
I don't think Dana's going to make Max fight Brian Ortega or anything. I think you just got to give him the next shot against Volk.
Yeah, you do. And it's the same situation where it's like all the cards are out on the table. Max has got to win that fight. But here's the thing. Max can't just beat Alexander Volkanovski once. If he goes out there and beats Volk, you do the immediate rematch. And I don't care. Like, people can think that's crazy and be like, oh, 4 fights with. But guys, these are the 2 best featherweights in the world, and it's apparent. It's obvious.
Okay, hear me out. Here's what we do. If Max can go out there and beat Volk, you immediately do the rematch. He beats Volk again. Volk gets a couple fights, wins. and then you do the fifth fight for the greatest of all time.
Well, if Max wins the third fight, yeah. I mean, dude, you could see it for the first time in the history. Max has got to win the third fight, though. If he doesn't, then all bets are off. But again, if Max goes out there, wins that third fight, you could see Max winning that fourth fight. You do 5 fights, the first time in UFC history where you've got a, I don't even know what you call that, 5 fights. It's not a quadrilogy, that's 4. So I don't know. I'm not a chemist, but nonetheless, like it'd be
I like
insane.
Torren Brown's take. I forgot to mention this, but Volk said that he wants to defend the belt a few more times, and he wants to go up to 55 and challenge Charles. So I would love to see that too. I think he dominates at 155 too, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. I'm actually a little surprised that Volk has not done this sooner. Look, when he was playing rugby, this guy was walking around at 205, 215 pounds. Like, yeah, you see those photos of him playing rugby. This guy's like a brick shithouse. Like, you're not going to run through this man. And he even had like a little bit of a rugby tackle in that fight against Korean Zombie. That shoulder.
He literally just shoulder checked him, and I was like, "What the? Is this MMA or rugby?"
It was hilarious. It was good, but yeah, no. If Volk goes out there and beats Max, go up to and give him the immediate shot. I don't need to see Volk prove himself at 155. I don't. He's ran through that whole division. And you know what? You can give Connor the lightweight shot after fucking beating the belt to Jose. You can give it to Alexander Volkanovski without having to prove himself, you know? And, yeah, man. God. Could you imagine, though, Islam Makhachev? I do see this, Benji. Islam Makhachev would make Volk cry. Come on, guys. Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski. I disagree with your take, though, Benji. There's no way Islam just walks through Alexander Volkanovski. I've seen too many great things.
That's so disrespectful.
It's so disrespectful, man. I've seen way too many great things from Alexander Volkanovski. Pound for pound, number 2 right now in the world.
Torren Brown thinks we're off the zoinkies. He says, hell no. I wholeheartedly disagree. 155 is a whole different animal from 145. Volkanovski wants to dominate lightweight. I mean,
won't dominate. Yeah.
I mean,
here's the thing, though.
It's kind of disrespectful towards Volk.
It is, man. And keep in mind, the guy was 205 pounds. You put 10 pounds of muscle, and with how much power Volk's got, Volk is a small guy. I think he's like 5'7", doesn't have a huge reach. But here's the thing. He
says Justin Gaethje destroys Volkanovski. Chill,
oh,
son.
Bro, no way.
Chill.
He don't destroy him. That's a good fight. Gaethje could win it. I'm not saying anything,
it's a great fight.
Yeah, that's a great fight, man. That's a fight I'd love to see. I mean, we got to start talking about Volkanovski moving up the lightweight eventually, you know, after this Max Holloway fight. But, yeah, guys, we are running a little low on time here. Just so you guys know, in case y'all forgot, I'm the Aljamain Sterling. You know, DQ last month. Tabor got it, but I got the belt back. Let's go. I'm the new Church Coin champ, Triple C, baby. Guys, we got to get out of here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Guys, be sure to follow our social media accounts, you know, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Getter, Rumble, all that good stuff. You guys see it all at the Church of MMA. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. My name is Mason Knight, Devin Davis on the 1s and 2s. Shout out to you, Devin. And until next time.